This is Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome to episode number 122, you heard it right, of Musical Talk. I'm sitting across from my very good friend Dominic Lindsay Beaton, who hasn't joined us about 1,000 million years.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's been 1,000 million years, because that would make you incredibly old, Nick.
I am incredibly old.
Yes.
I turned 25 this year.
Oh God, you turned 25. How shocking!
Nearly
anyway,
quarter age.
but I'm here now. and
You
looking
are.
forward to doing the 122nd episode of Musical Talk.
In this episode, Lisa is going to be interviewing Julie Atherton, which is a long requested guest we've had on for this episode. So that'll be very exciting.
Yeah.
For all our listeners. Dom and I have recently come back from two brand new musicals of different styles.
Different styles and different areas of London as well.
Yes, in the West End and one in Hammersmith, due to transfer to the West End.
Yeah. Do you know if it's actually going ahead? But I'm guessing on the ticket sales at the Lyric, it'll happen. By the way, if me saying the venue is the Lyric and Nick saying it's in Hammersmith, if that hasn't given away what musical I saw, then you need to check up on your West End musical knowledge.
Yes, and turn off. It may go to the Lyric in the West End, which would be quite funny. They wouldn't have to change any of their publicity material.
Yeah.
We are, of course, talking about Spring Awakening, which Dom saw last night.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite fresh in your memory.
Yes, it is.
A couple of weeks ago, I saw Oliver at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, which listeners to the show will know how excited I've been about this very, very big production. We know how much I like my big productions.
Exactly. That's what draws Nick to the theatre anyway. It's just big productions. Like you said, two very good and very different musicals that are opening to sell out crowds, quite frankly. In your face recession, that's what I want to say.
Exactly.
What's his name? I can't remember the director of Dior. You know, the company director of the company. No, of Dior. You know, he famously last week something said, "I know there's a recession, but there's no recession in creativity." And then said, "There's no recession in the House of Dior," which is a fantastic say. There's no
recession in Chiswick, I might say, where I live.
Well, there's no. Hang on, that's a completely another show. Let's get back to the musicals.
Yes.
Yeah. So Nick, how was Oliver? How was Oliver?
Oliver, as we talked about in the show, is a revival of a revival. The 1994 Sam Mendes London Palladium production, which was big and very impressive.
Big, went down a storm.
Played for 4 years or something,
yes.
Which is quite impressive for the Palladium. A multitude of stars starred in that version. Jonathan Pryce, Jim Dale, Barry Humphries. Of course, this London one has Rowan Atkinson and the winner of the TV show behind it. Now, I didn't see Jodie Prenger, or Prenger, whatever her name is, in the production I saw. I saw Tamsin Carroll. For me, the best thing, I cried at this production. That's how
really
emotionally moved I was by it. Not because of the story, because the story is a bit simple in a way, really. Oh. Little kid.
Yeah, well,
runs away.
Okay, yes.
Hangs out with a couple of thieves.
Okay, we're going to debate that in a second. But you didn't cry at the story, which is why I was going to say fair enough, because I thought if you cried at the story, it's a tragic story. Okay, yes, go ahead and cry. But what made you cry? Was someone sitting on your foot or something?
I cried because it was such a. I was looking forward so much to this production. And at the curtain call, you know, everyone was standing up and cheering and whooping, and I was like, yes, it's finally back in London, and it's bigger and better.
It's home.
It's bigger and better than it ever was before. Consider yourself at home, I think, is the phrase that comes into mind. Sure. We don't need to talk about the history of Oliver because Tim and I did that in great detail a couple of weeks ago. But
this production in particular,
production was perfect in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw it with a friend of mine, a fan of Musical Talk, called Sandra, who is from Sweden, and her friend Vicky.
Hello, Sandra.
Hello,
I'm sure
Sandra.
She's listening.
Yes, Vicky and I really, really loved it, and this production is dark,
but it should be. I mean, a production like Oliver, if they tried to make it, which is something that I'll talk about in Spring Awakening as well, but if they tried to make it light and fluffy, it wouldn't. People would have been throwing stones at the producers. Well, probably not the producers, but they would have been throwing stones somewhere. I'm sure.
The actors.
Yeah, not to belittle the complexity of such a great show, but what are the sort of things that you walked away thinking, my God, that was good. That was incredible. That was, I mean, anything from the actors to the design.
Sets, orchestrations, Rowan Atkinson, and the songs.
Sets, orchestrations, Rowan Atkinson, the songs. So the set, but I was under the impression that the set is pretty similar to Sam Mendes' set.
It is, but because it's in a completely different new space.
Right.
And this is a big space. I didn't know how big this space was, and I'd been on stage at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. As you do.
Yeah, as you do. When you broke in at night and the police were chasing you.
For like the first 10 minutes of the show, you see half the stage and you think, okay, this is pretty big. And then the whole stage is revealed when Oliver is running, he's escaping, and it's just the biggest thing you've ever seen. It's 100 feet deep.
Crikey.
From the back to the front. And that is
That's a big stage.
And when you have one kid,
the gravity of it, I suppose, will be overwhelming.
And it's such a beautiful theatre, and it's as you say, it's home. And Lionel Bart, who died, I think 10 years ago now,
10 years ago now,
he'd be so happy that his production is now the best-selling show the West End has ever had, because it's made 15 million.
The preview sales alone. Let alone people trying to buy tickets now.
Advance sales, £15 million.
Yeah. Because, Cameron needed it.
Yeah.
He needed
It's
it.
got the swimming pool fund to sort it out. But Rowan Atkinson, he was what stuck with me and many other people. You're not seeing Mr. Bean on stage, but there are elements of Mr. Bean on stage.
But I think in a way as well, obviously I'm only going on the reviews, and that there's a lot of photography, press releases of pictures, images of the show, and Rowan Atkinson Fagin in action. So I'm only going on that, but maybe you can confirm this or denounce it with your entire heart. But there must be an element of an audience going to see it will be, that's Mr. Bean, especially if they've got kids. I mean, worldwide phenomenon. Even when I'm in the Philippines, Mr. Bean is played on TV because he's universal. So there must be an element of the fact that They must know there's a bit of Mr. Bean superstar in there, because that's like an insider joke between...
Bean is in this. They wouldn't know.
Yes.
Because, no 6-year-old kid knows the name Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to consider he's a very experienced physical performer. If you've seen his invisible drum kit sketches,
which made him,
and
pretty
his
much.
piano sketch. Yeah. And this is what he does. He's very... And Fagin, in a way, is a sort of mime artist, because he teaches all these kids how to pick a pocket or two.
Yeah.
The Independent newspaper said he couldn't sing. I disagree with that totally, because they're more patter songs, they're more speaking songs than big belting numbers. You leave that to Nancy. He did his job incredibly well, and he brought comedy to the role. During rehearsals, he would just improvise jokes, and one brilliant joke. If you haven't seen the show, don't listen to this. Skip forward about 30
Avert
seconds.
your ears.
He's going through his box of jewels that he has hidden, and he comes across his opera glasses, and he puts them on, and he says, "I've always wanted to go to the opera so I can sit in the audience and look at the rich people," and he looks at the stalls, and he slowly raises his neck up to the top of the theatre, "and all the poor people," and that just brought the house down.
Yeah.
That's not what Lionel Bart wrote, but that's not Mr. Bean. That's Rowan Atkinson being
devising his Fagin. His Fagin, right.
Reviewing the Situation is a very, very comic... It's a comic song anyway. Our friend Bill Brown, who orchestrated the show, told me a story of how the first thing Rowan said to him was, "I've been thinking about this song and thinking about this character, and can we change it from a clarinet solo to a violin solo?" Because there's lots of cadenzas in the song. Yeah. And so they did, and Rowan Atkinson sort of mimes the violin, and he sort of dances around, like, sort of in a Mr. Bean way.
In a physical way.
Yeah. So it's very physically funny.
Yeah.
Which brings a great joy to the evening, because it's such a dark story.
Yeah.
Kids in slavery throughout the whole thing. Whether you're working for a workhouse or Fagin or Sykes.
Whoever, it's slavery, yes.
It's a production that I think is... I can't wait to see it again. And I wasn't sitting in the best seats, So I'd like to see it again sitting in the best seats, because the sets...
By best seats, I mean, do you mean that you were sat up in the gods?
I was very high up in the gods, so I didn't get a lot of the perspective tricks that the sets were playing on you. They have, buildings that glide across the stage and things, and apparently St. Paul's was in there somewhere, and I completely missed that.
That's very interesting.
Because of the depth of the stage, they play with perspective a lot.
Yeah. But in a similar vein, though, doesn't that mean that wherever you're sat, you'll almost get your own version of it?
Yeah.
So actually, so it's not that you missed out on some things, because maybe you would have seen elements from where you were. Other audience members might not have if they're in the front 5 rows of the stalls or something.
We saw bits we weren't meant to see, like we saw actors gathering behind a prop piece. And
right,
things.
Yes.
£22.70 for not the worst seats in the house, but you're still pretty far up. It's not bad for a production of this magnitude. And it moves so swiftly, and it's so cinematic.
Yeah.
And what Cameron does here is, when he has a film to base it on, he wants to bring the cinematic experience onto the stage, like he did for My Fair Lady and this Oliver. Which is, quite frankly,
what Sam Mendes did in the reverse. Is, American Beauty, Road to Perdition, although they're very, they're definitely the medium of film. They're 2 brilliant films, and he's using that medium. There are genuine moments of theatricality in both of those films that make them so good. He's bringing his devices, his knowledge from the stage, and transposing them to the film.
Like that one shot in American Beauty where you have almost a proscenium arch in the frame, and they're sitting at the dinner table, and it's just
exactly. Anyway, but so that's Rowan Atkinson. The songs you mentioned, the songs.
Well, they're classics, aren't they? I mean,
are they pretty? I mean, were they anticipated? In a good way, you're excited because it's coming up, or had they done some new things with them that no one saw coming?
They added some new dance sections into, like, a whole new ragtime section into Consider Yourself, which I always thought was meant to be there.
Yeah. And so you wrote to them saying, "I've always thought there should be this ragtime section. Sincerely, Nick Hudson, Musical Talk."
Lots of more tricks in the orchestrations, like, for example, Bill. There's a lyric in Pick a Pocket or Two when they have Robin Hood, what a crook, gave away what he took. Bill put coconuts in there, so it sounds like horse hooves. They swung certain sections. It just sort of brought a sort of extra value to this production. And they're coming out on the 16th or 13th of March, sometime in mid-March, is the cast album of this show, which is recorded live.
Wow!
Over 4 nights. So
they pick and choose the best renditions?
They edit it all together. Yes. It's a very, very timely process. People say, it must be cheaper than hiring a studio. No, you're hiring a group of people to work very hard putting together an album and mixing it all. But I think what you'll get in the live recording, which you don't get in the studio recordings, is actors bouncing off an audience.
Yes. In the moment, they'll hit something that they wouldn't have if they were just playing to empty theatre.
Hopefully, we'll get the full versions of all the songs. Some scenes I felt did lag on a bit. The book isn't perfect, and because I don't know the original story, because I know the original story, but I don't know the source material from which it's based. There are bits where it just sort of drags on a bit, and then you have first act is much stronger than the first.
In regard to songs, and the second
act,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Where a lot of
the story happens. It drives it along.
But it doesn't feel old-fashioned at all, which is good, I think.
Yeah, very good.
For a musical written in the 50s. Because the other show we had in the 50s was Salad Days. Yes.
Yeah.
Which
is Cameron McIntosh going to try and revive that one?
Well, Salad Days was the show that got Cameron McIntosh in love with theatre. If you've seen Hey Mr. Producer DVD, there's something in it called The Magic Piano, a character from Salad Days.
Right.
That sings and plays, and Cameron was inspired as to how this magic piano worked, so that's what got Cameron into. So it all comes back to Salad Days.
Well, let's say
I don't think we'll have Salad Days at the Drury Lane.
Yeah, no. Let's say we're glad that Oliver was the one that got the revival there.
Yes, I encourage everyone to go and see it. Not that you'll be able to, but you can try.
Well, you never know. I mean, there are always ways. I mean, the more internet things you sign up to, the more last minute seats. You get one in the morning that says 10 seats released for tonight's performance at a reduced price, or matinee shows. So I wouldn't be discouraged by the fact that it has sold out. I would get excited about the fact that you could see it in a month.
You can
or
still
so.
sit where I sat, and they're not bad seats.
Yeah.
You'll hear the sound is brilliant.
And if the stage is so big and so elaborate, you're not going to miss the story.
You want to be further back anyway.
Yeah.
260 speakers are in this auditorium. Sort of where we sat for Lord of the Rings, but not as far back, so it's fine. It's just a bit hot and cramped up there, and if you're 6'2" like I am, you're going to be sitting like a contortionist.
Yeah.
We're going to hand you over to Lisa now, who's going to be interviewing star of West End, a producer and great all-round entertainer. This is Lisa's interview with Julie Atherton.
Musical Talk.
Today we're here with Julie Atherton, who most of you will know as currently being in Avenue Q. Hi Julie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. You?
I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to have you on the show.
No problem.
Did you survive last week's snow?
Yes, I did. It's quite nice because we've got a show off. So I was snowed in my new house, so that was good. I got to unpack a few boxes. So.
Were you not out building a snowman then?
I was as well, yes.
Had to be done.
Did it all.
I suppose the easiest thing to sort of start off with is what actually got you into musical theatre?
Well, basically, I did drama at college, at Sixth Form College, and my drama teacher really encouraged me. And I wasn't any good at anything else, so basically, that was sort of my only hope. And I just sat in the library one day and thought, right, I've got to look up. I didn't know anything about drama schools in London, so I just looked up a few. Quite liked the sound of Mount View, went for the audition, got it. Yeah, it just all went from there, really.
It worked out really well then.
Yeah, yeah, it did.
Did you?
But yeah, once I set my mind to something, then that's it.
It's a good way to be.
Yeah.
Was there any sort of shows that you'd seen before that you saw and you thought that's something I'd quite like to do? Or
well, I'd heard the soundtrack to Miss Saigon. Absolutely fell in love with that show. So I sang a song from that for my audition, and while I was in London, I went to go and see it, and I was like, yeah, definitely. This is what I want to do. I want to do musical theatre, definitely. And it's really funny because I saw Joanna Ampel play Miss Saigon, and she is working with me now in Avenue Q.
It's Christmas Eve.
That was really sweet. I was like, yeah.
That's quite strange how it all fits together. What song did you sing, if you don't mind me asking?
I'd Give My Life For You.
That's a nice song.
It's
a good cast recording.
I can obviously never play that part though.
It's a shame. You could play Ellen.
No.
At the moment, obviously, you're in Avenue Q, but you've done shows before that. What that you've done before has been the favourite thing that you've worked on? I left
Avenue Q for a bit and did a few shows and a few workshops as well. And actually, a workshop of a show that hopefully will happen called Through the Door by Lawrence Mark White. I'm singing a song from it at the What's on Stage Awards. And I did it again for Perfect Pitch. We did a bit of it at Perfect Pitch, and I think it's brilliant. I think it could be brilliant if it was given enough money. I think that's been my favourite because it's just exciting. I just like working on new things, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you find that easier to do than going to sort of predefined roles, or?
Oh yeah, it's much better because you get to create it yourself, and you're not being made to be a carbon copy of somebody else. It's really nice when you develop it yourself. So yeah, new work is the way forward. I think producers need to take more risks.
It's something we talk about a lot on the podcast. It is the fact we get a lot of transfers over from Broadway at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a real shame that we're not getting the rising talent getting as much exposure as they perhaps should get, as well as the revivals that go on just now. So
yeah, it's something I'm fighting for, definitely. I'm on a crusade to get new work in the West End.
It sounds like a good one.
Well, I think a lot of people are behind me with it, so I think if we all pull together and try and get it done. I mean, Perfect Pitch is a great. We started with Notes from New York, really. When we were just bringing, it wasn't like bringing shows over. We were just bringing, a taste of songs that were happening in New York and just saying, look, there's new work out there. And then we did like a Not From New York, which was British talent. And, there's so much of it out there. And I did my album of Charles Miller songs because, he's unknown and I just think we need to stop listening to the old ones. It's like watching the same... You don't watch the same films over and over again at the cinema, do you? There's always new films coming out, so why isn't it the same with musical theatre?
I think there's a need for more to be done. And I know the Notes from New York series has been quite successful, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been great.
I know the confusion it causes on Facebook when people talk about going for Christmas in New York.
Right.
No, not Christmas, actually in New York.
Yeah. Yeah, my friends are always saying that. I'm saying, I'm doing Christmas in New York next week. Oh, you're in New York? I'm like, no. Oh, it doesn't matter. Forget it. Yeah.
We'll start again. Speaking of New York, obviously you originated the role of Kate Monster and Lucy the Slut over in London. What was that like?
It was fantastic. It was great because we still got to create things. Mm-hmm. It was really hard work, but it was just a few of us in a room with a lot of puppets and a few mirrors just going, trying to get things right and trying to make things look natural. And, it was really good fun because we got to create a few things. Obviously, there was some things that had to stay the same, but yeah, it was really, really, really nice.
What was the audition process like for Avenue Q?
Really, really weird because... obviously, at your final, you normally know exactly what you're doing, and you're doing something that you're very good at. Mm-hmm. And in this audition, you weren't. It was just awful because you were puppeteering, but you were rubbish at it. So it just felt just really weird. But everyone was, there was nobody that was a professional puppeteer. So it just felt a bit weird because I was like, well, I know my script and I know the song and blah blah blah, but I don't know how to work this thing. But you still had to do it and just sort of blag your way through it. Oh, it's weird.
Were you singing a song from the show at the time, or? Yeah,
I had to do Fine Line and do it with Kate Monster, thinking I don't know what I'm doing. It was just really weird. But,
it must have been very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was. It was just strange, really, because you just knew you weren't very good at it, but you
just had to get on with it and hope for the best.
But they were just seeing, from each audition how much you'd improved.
Yeah. It's not something you can easily practice, I suppose. Is it?
Ish, but you can't take the puppets home with you, so you can't really practice, if you know what I mean. No. It's very different when you put the puppet on.
How easy or difficult is it to control the puppets?
Well, now I find Kate Monster quite easy. Now I'm used to it. I mean, I still find Lucy quite hard because she's got two rods. So you hold both the rods in one hand. So you've got to move them both with one hand, which is just hard. And even now, sometimes I drop one of them during the show. I'm like, oh God, she's got one arm.
Are they quite light, or do your arms ache at the end?
I'm used to it now, but yeah, they're quite. It's like, I don't know, a bag of shopping. You pick it up at first, and then after a few minutes, you're like, okay, now I want to put it down, but you can't.
No need to go to the gym then.
Yeah, no.
What's the sort of the going from that, the best and worst things about being in Avenue Q because it is quite different with the puppet angle. And it's a great show. I mean, I love it. I saw it. I was really late coming to it. I saw it last year in New York.
I love it. Yeah. I was having I love my job the other day.
Well, but that's really nice to do, because obviously you came back to it. Was it quite strange second time around? Yeah,
it was. Yeah, the first time I did it, I got a bit of stage fright towards the end because I've been doing it so long. So when I came back to it, literally the second night back, I got a stage fright again. It was really horrible because you sort of know something so well that you don't know it anymore. So the second night back, I think I was just so nervous about it. I got it again, and you just have voices in your head. You're going, you're going to forget it, and it's horrible. But then I just completely got over it, and I just love it now. Getting over that hurdle must be quite daunting. Oh, it's weird. Yeah, it took me about a week to get over it the first time. It was just horrible. I just didn't want to go on stage. But it was fine. I mean, I had people in the times where I'd had it really, really bad, and they didn't notice at all. You just can't notice it. It's just inside my heart. It's pounding and I'm shaking and I'm thinking, I do not know what I'm saying anymore. It's just coming out of my mouth, but I don't know what it means. But it must be an awful feeling for you, but at least you know it's not translating over. So yeah. That's some consolation for the feeling awful for a short while. Yeah.
Is it easier or more difficult to sort of get into character in a show like Avenue Q, because you don't really have a costume, you just have the puppet?
You just look at this little thing next to you and that's the character. I don't know, you just sort of become the character when you put it on.
They are really cute puppets.
I know, I love Kate, she's brilliant.
I can't help but love Kate.
I know, she's so cute.
I know you did The Last 5 Years recently.
Oh, I loved it.
There we go, that answers my question.
Absolutely loved it, it was brilliant.
I know that was very popular, and it was extra dates added, weren't there?
Yeah, and they sold out as well. Yeah, it was brilliant.
What did you enjoy the most about it? Was it just the fact that it was something...
Well, I just loved that show so much, and I'd always wanted to do it. So when I was asked to do it, I was just over the moon. I cried actually when I was asked. I was, oh my god, I can't believe it. I was really chuffed to do it anyway. It was just such a challenge as well, because it's a massive thing, that show. Working with Amelia Sears as well and Fiona Laird, you know, they're just fantastic directors. We just had a whale of a time on it. Everything was right.
One of the things that I was asked when I said I was going to be speaking to you was, could you ask Julie, would they please make a London cast recording? So there you go.
Of Avenue Q or
no,
Last 5 Years?
Of Last 5 Years. It was one of the things came back to me. Ask nicely. So.
Oh, well, it's not up to me. I would like that too.
I thought you might say that. Have you got a favourite show or event that you've done? Would The Last 5 Years be up there on one of your favourite things?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, I was so scared that first night. Well, not just nervous, scared. Just the whole enormity of it, really. You start the show, and also I have to go backwards in the show, which was really hard, because you have to start off at the end of the relationship and then get happier towards the end, really. So to start off and to try and... It's hard to win an audience over straight away when you're miserable, really, because they just think... I don't really care, because I don't know what's come before this. Why are you crying on me? I knew that was going to be really difficult, that first song. So, yeah, I think I just shook from start to finish, really, through that show. But I'm so glad I did it. It was such a relief when we'd done it. It just felt like we'd climbed a mountain. But yeah, it was great. And to do it with Paul as well. I mean, he's just one of my best friends in the whole world. He's my stage husband.
Your stage husband. Would you like to do it again for longer, or was that enough?
It was just right, but yeah, obviously, yeah. I mean, I'd love to, yeah.
Everyone I know who went has taunted me relentlessly ever since about how good it was.
Oh.
Thanks for that.
Good.
I know, obviously, because you're working at the moment, you probably don't get a chance to see a lot of theatre, but is there anything sort of the last few years that you've seen that you thought that is just fantastic? I'd love a chance to do that.
I absolutely loved PF. It's not something I could do, I don't think. Partly for the fact I can't speak French. But that was absolutely fantastic. Seeing Eleanor Roger play, that was just amazing. I saw it at the Donmar. I haven't seen the West End one, but that was incredible. I have to, what else have I seen? I can't remember. There's something else. I can't remember, but anyway. I mean, I was absolutely in tears by the end of that. Have you seen it?
I haven't, actually.
Oh, you must.
It's one of those things I would like to see, but I'm actually based in Scotland, so I have to commute in order to see things. That didn't stop me last year, though. I saw a lot last year, so choosing things is quite difficult. You have to go through a process of elimination of what I really want to see, which is... It's probably just as well I don't live in London. I'd be absolutely bankrupt, but never mind. I know you've got an album out, as you mentioned. Have you got any plans to sort of do a follow-up to that at the moment? Yes,
I have.
You do?
Yeah, I'm going to be working on that this year, really, just getting it together and choosing what I'm going to sing on it. So yeah, I'll be doing that this year, but we've just relaunched a remastered version of the album anyway, because the first one all sold out, and rather than just print some more off, we decided to remaster it. So, you know, there's like a few more guitars in some of the songs and blah, blah, blah. And it's being sold with a free copy of Fine Line.
Ooh.
Yeah, so buy it.
Sounds good. Well, do you have a favourite track on it?
I suppose... I don't know. It changes, really. Heaven knows. I got my own way on that one, so I like that one. Didn't have to stick to a drum beat, which is nice.
That's quite good.
But yeah, I do like Girl a Few Words. That's why we open with that one, because it's nice and spunky.
Yeah. I think my favourite ones on it is You Know How to Love Me.
Oh, really?
I don't know why, but it gets incredibly stuck in my head.
Oh, okay.
For some reason. I just really like the track. So
it's so funny. Everyone has like. I thought everybody had pretty much like the same sort of thing, but so many different people like different ones.
It's funny when it comes to music, everyone is different.
Yeah,
really.
Because there was a couple of them that I didn't want to go on that album, and I was like, look, I'd rather them, be left off. But some of them, that's people's favourites.
Oh, so, just as well they're there then.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say which ones.
I suppose it's better not to, because
yeah.
I wonder why. If you weren't musical theatre, is there anything that you would like to be doing?
Well, no, I don't want to just do musical theatre anyway, because I'm an actress, really, foremost. So love to be doing sitcoms, blah, blah, blah. But, I love singing as well, so just singing a good old pop song would be good.
If someone said to you, you've got to choose one path and that's it, what would you do apart from panic and run away? which is the obvious answer to that question, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't choose. That's like saying choose between my cats. I can't do it.
How many cats have you got?
2. That's why I just can't choose.
Right.
I'm not allowed.
That's fine. What kind of music do you yourself listen to then?
Well, everything. I just have such a wide collection of music. It's ridiculous. I like folky music, because I was brought up on that, really. Mother's Irish, so yeah, I like folk music, and I like really camp chart music as well. That's just to dance around to.
There's a lot of that about as well.
Yeah.
No shortage.
No, not really camp. I know, it sounds awful now. But yeah, I like a wide collection of things, yeah.
Going to go back to sort of talking about auditions and stuff, and I know you said that the Avenue Q audition was hard. Is that the worst audition you've ever had? Or is there one where you just thought, get me out of here? Oh,
I've had plenty where I thought, get me out of here. Probably the ones I really didn't get as well. Where I've just been singing and gone, cracked on a note or something, and just thought, oh, please.
Any in particular that stand out?
Actually, there was one audition where I sang Climbing Uphill from the last 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And as you know, it's a very funny song.
Yeah.
And this guy, I can't even remember what the audition was for, but this old man was auditioning me for something, and I did the song, and he just looked up and went, right. That was it. Just like nothing. So I went, well, I thought that was quite funny, but oh. And he just wasn't biting at all. So I was like, okay. And then he went, can you tap dance? And I went, well, I've no Fred Astaire, but and he went, okay. I was like, shall I go? Or? Yeah. Right, okay. It was just really weird. I just left the place thinking, and he hated me. I think he just hated his life, really.
That's not good.
No. He wasn't a very good audience member.
He doesn't sound it.
No.
I suppose there's nothing worse than sort of standing and thinking that you're getting something spot on and having it absolutely fall flat.
It's like being a comedian and absolutely no one laughing at your jokes. It's ridiculous.
Do you like doing sort of things with a lot of comic timing in them? Do you find that?
Yeah, I love comedy.
I suppose you've got a lot to play with in Avenue Q with that.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Do you have a favourite part of the show?
Act 1. It all goes by so fast, really. But Act 1's my favourite.
Avenue Q's closing. How do you feel about being part of that, sort of the closing cast? Is that quite difficult, seeing as you opened it?
Well, no, that was part of the reason that that was the reason I came back to close it, really, because I wanted to be. It's just something nice about opening it and closing it as well. Because Avenue Q is a massive part of my life. It's just so lovely to work with everyone from the beginning and now to close it as well. I think it's really nice. It's sad though. It's sad it's closing.
Yeah. Do you have anything planned for after Avenue Q, or is that something
Not
you
yet.
think about later?
Not yet. Don't know yet. Scared.
suppose that is the daunting thing, particularly at the moment with shows, a lot of shows.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like that anyway. Though life of an actress, that's what it's like. It's just you just never know.
I know you're tight for time, so thank you very much for
thank you.
talking to us tonight. I'm actually coming to see the show in 2 weeks, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh.
I hope we have a good show tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, see you soon.
Right.
Bye.
Musical Talk. So Tom, you're going to talk about Spring Awakening now.
Yes.
Which you saw last night.
I did see last night. Spring Awakening, I got to admit, on the whole, I was. Now, I have to admit I am slightly biased because when Spring Awakening, this musical rendition was first done in New York, it was actually, I think it was commissioned or co-produced by the Atlantic Theatre Company, which is who I trained with as an actor out there in the US of A. So, on the whole, it was very good. I like it almost on a moral point that it's not a big musical. It's, but it is in the sense that clearly a lot of thought has gone into the design and the staging, but it's not about revolving stages. It's not about, oh my God, that car just flew or that person's flying. It's, it's not about that.
It's not magical.
It's not, well, but there you go. But it's because the magic is in the story. Mm-hmm. It's not in the props and the set designer, designing something that can fly but can only be done in a few theatres or whatever. The stage hardly ever changed. The only set that was really brought on and off were chairs to show you where the new building or the new house or the new room, wherever they were, they'd bring appropriate chairs on to display the classroom or whatnot. And the two older actors played all the older characters. And they had a cast of a lot of newbies, a lot of people who came from like the National Youth Theatre and like National Musical Youth Theatre, I think as well, something like that. And they were all very good. It was one of the best cast shows I've seen in a very long time. I wouldn't have made any, if I was the casting director for that, I would have hopefully made exactly the same choices. It was cast very well. Very well, and all the actors did a very good job. Do
you think it was cast well because it was... I mean, the characters in the story are young anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're not going to go for casting 35-year-olds playing...
But no, but they would. They would. It happens a lot because they are trustworthy actors. They'll get the job done. So you always cast an actor who is in their 20s or something and has a track record that proves they're worth their money. And they just look younger. That happens a lot. And here I think they have actually gone out on a limb and said, we're going to cast... all these teenagers to play.
Do you think that worked?
Oh yeah, I think it was very good. I think it was very good because actually there's one moment at the end of Act 1, I'm not going to say, but those of you who've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. At the end of Act 1, where I was a bit uncomfortable when it happened because the actors are so young.
Right.
And I'm there thinking, I'm not sure if this is appropriate. If they were older actors, you're leafing through the program and you see they trained at this place and then they've clearly been acting for years and years, you kind of go, okay,
it's okay they're masturbating on stage.
It's okay. Well, they're not masturbating on stage. It's something else that happens. And actually, the fact that they are young and I'm aware of it makes it shocking. And
is that the intent? Do you think?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why it's good casting because the actors can carry these characters who have a lot of depth. They're not simple. And then you have those moments like that at the end of Act 1 that I actually, and I was in the front row as well, so I felt I could see all the stuff that was going on, and I was thinking, okay, that's look somewhere else, Tom, that's quite inappropriate.
Put your program in front of your
face. Yeah,
exactly.
So,
the end of Act 1, you were really happy?
Yes, the end of Act, I actually, it's very interesting because Nick talked about this earlier when he was saying about Oliver. Some of the dance sequences, it's not a big musical cast, it's not a big cast. I'm thinking, gosh...
Probably, like Oliver, where it's 80.
No, I think you're looking at a cast, including the swing actors. You're looking at maybe a cast of 15 total.
Not bad though. It's enough.
It's enough, and for a stage like the Lyric, it's perfect. It's
it's not a small theatre, is it? The Lyric.
No, but it's
venue.
But it's not. Well, it's exactly. It's not quite fringe. It's whatever off West End or whatever they call. I don't know. It's like you've got. Yeah, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. End. Yeah, but it's a great. The Lyric Theatre in Hammersmith is one of my favourite theatres in the world. I think it's a great theatre and they put on a lot of really high quality daring programmes there. But being in the front row, there are a couple of dance sequences and I'm thinking of one in particular in the first act. There was a dance sequence during the song. The Bitch of Living, where I thought if I was further back, I'd really be enjoying this dance
Interesting
sequence.
song to dance to.
Yeah, The Bitch of Living is actually, that's the other thing. I thought the first act was actually stronger than the second act. Normally, especially with plays, like you say, the second act has the drama, it has the action, it has the, all the, everything. You build everything up in the first act, so in the second act, it can all collapse.
Yeah.
And although they did that, I actually enjoyed the first act quite a bit more than I did the second act. Partly that's because I think it had better songs in the first act. I really enjoyed the opening 4 or 5 songs in the first act. I thought they were done really well, and it set the tone right. That brought a smile to my face, and I kind of went, okay, I'm geared up for seeing this show.
But you like your rock music, so...
I do. At times...
Was it turgid, depressing rock, or whiny, that kind of,
No, I tell you, it's a trick.
Was it kind of punky, or...?
It was a bit punky, but it didn't just pigeonhole itself into one. But then in the second act, I felt that the songs were a little bit samey, but that's because of how it paralleled the script. You see, this is my, and it's not a big critique, because I can see why they've done it this way, and it makes sense why they've done it this way. It's based on a very old play, and so when they're dialoguing, the script is very concise and traditional and very clever in that sense. And then when they start to sing, you get transported to America, and it sounds American. Clearly, it's written.
But what you're seeing here, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're seeing these actors put on this traditional play, and then they get their microphones out and they sing their thoughts, their modern day thoughts on the play. Is that right?
Oh yeah, no, that would make sense. I actually didn't see that,
because
I didn't see that.
That would explain the different language styles and the different.
Yeah, that would explain it, but actually that didn't come across in the
jump
show.
Out to you
no,
as a concept.
Not at all. And I mean, that's a concept that's done a lot in theatre.
Well,
not just that, but I mean, I've got a show going on at the upstairs at the Gatehouse this February called Once a Catholic. Come see it; it's going to be good. And that's what we're doing. Once a Catholic is a group of schoolgirls come back and act out the play. So it's a play within a play. And I didn't actually see that. I personally thought when they pulled out the microphones and started singing. It's just quite a cool way to say, look, we don't have to be, I'm going to, put a microphone, a Britney-like microphone or something in the forehead. I've got to try and disguise. It's like, we know that it's a theatre. We know that they're singing. We know that they have to sing into, to get it to the speakers so everyone can hear it. So why try and hide it? Why bother trying to hide these devices? And I agree. It was very refreshing for them to do that, and refreshing for them to go like, no, we're just going to bring on chairs. And we move the chairs to change the angles to show you that we're now at home. We don't have to have a massive set change, and the set collapses and reveals this massive thing which 40 people push on.
What was the audience reaction last night?
The audience, well, this is going back to what I was saying about it suddenly becomes quite American. I think the audience was quite American as well. It's something that's happened in Wicked. Every time I've seen Wicked, either on Broadway or here, is when the actors came on. The audience, so it's, by the way, it's sold out audiences at the Lyric. That's why I'm pretty sure it'll go to the West End. But the second the actors walked on, people cheered. And I think that's a very American thing to do. I don't think that happens a lot when you see very British audiences seeing shows. And by British, I don't mean just British audience who go to see shows in the West End and they're sort of the middle to upper class. I'm talking about, seeing shows at Hackney Empire and Arcola and other venues that have British audiences from different backgrounds to the middle class that go see the West End shows.
Well, Atkinson got a cheer when he came on in Oliver, but that's expected, I think.
Well, I mean, it's just, I remember Michael Sheen famously, because I saw him in Frost Nixon, and he loves Frost Nixon, he loves the character, and he loved doing it, but one of his biggest complaints was he said, in America they're very different, because I would walk on stage, the first time I walk on stage, and they'd all cheer. Frank Langella, same thing, he'd walk on stage, they'd all cheer. And he said it was annoying, it was distracting, because you spend hours in rehearsal getting the rhythm right of a show, and you do. You spend hours getting it right, thinking about your character, and then you come on stage and you've got to wait for them to stop cheering it. And you think, I haven't done anything yet. And that's what I thought when I was watching Spring Awakening. I thought, I'm not going to cheer for these people, because quite frankly, they just walked. That's all they did. I can do that. Everyone in this theatre can do that, That actually kind of turned me off a little bit, because I thought, oh, now it's going to be kind of playing to an American audience. And truth be told, it got 2 curtain calls and a standing ovation. And they had done a very good job, but I think it was the American influence that
For
said,
"Come." Like you didn't stand up at the standing.
No,
ovation.
no,
Okay.
they deserved a standing ovation. They definitely did. But the 2 curtain calls is a bit much. In fact, the actors with the last one, a lot of them, or about 2/3 of them came on, and then the other third obviously ran on because they weren't used to getting the second one or something like that. The production element of it was really good. It was a kind of a show that knew what it was. I thought the first act was stronger than the second act, and the songs of the first act were better, and the script in the first act was strong. It was stronger first act, and the second act, like you said, it was actually.
You kind of said the second act was sort of suddenly smothered in treacle, really.
Well, no, because a lot of the drama did happen, but then at the end,
it resolved itself.
Well, no, there's the final song. Let me just say it for you here. It's got the song of Purple Summer. By the entire company sings that song, and actually, for my taste, I think it could have ended before that song started, and it would have been a very powerful, very poignant ending. But instead, then they launch into this one number, which kind of slots in there, and I thought to myself, what they're trying to do is give us a nice, tidy bow to tie all these problems of this era and how it affects us now. They're trying to make it really nice and packaged, almost spoon feed us, and I think that for me, for a lot of the musicals I've seen come out of America in the 21st century, that's a very American thing to do. Whereas actually, it would take a lot more guts to kind of say, you know what, the ending is a bit tragic, and we're going to leave you with that, so that you can think about what's happened, as opposed to us trying to do the thinking for you on stage, so that you can kind of go away and think, oh, what a happy musical, I'm going to go buy more tickets.
You're saying they tagged a happy ending onto it, or they?
Well, it's not a happy ending, but it's they were really trying to package it really nicely, like a nice little bow in it. And you know what? I find it's a mistake. It's a common mistake that a lot of, not just musicals, but a lot of plays make. I saw a show at the National called Her Naked Skin last year. That's 2008.
Giggity.
And that's what they did. They had one scene too many at the end, and I think there's quite a lot of bravery to go, let's cut that scene and just give them this ending, which is more complex, but does more justice to the show.
Here we go with my weekly mention. Wicked could do that. They could cut the bit where she, the ending. Yeah, the ending. Yeah, in case. Actually, do we have any listeners who haven't seen Wicked? I tell you, if you're a listener, I think we have listeners who choose not to see Wicked.
Okay, all right, who choose not to see, but that's an active thing. I would like if someone could email me, dom@musicaltalk.co.uk.
Just someone email him.
Yeah, someone, anyone. No. But if someone to email me, dom@musicaltalk.co.uk with Wicked in the subject bar, and just to say, Dom, hello, I like you a lot, because that's always nice to hear, but to say, I've never seen Wicked, it's not by choice, I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I would be amazed if one of our listeners has done that, or 5 of our listeners. If I get 5 of them,
Dom will eat his hat.
I'll eat my hat live on this show.
With audio and everything.
With audio and everything, yeah.
They could just not have that ending, or Little Shop of Horrors, the film version. They could not have it all be happy.
Yeah.
I don't know why Hollywood have to do this.
Exactly, and it's kind of an American thing, but because, like you say, because Hollywood's done it, American audiences kind of anticipate it, and you can't give them a really difficult ending. But then you look at one of my favourite musicals of all time, West Side Story, and that is one of the best endings to a story ever.
Or Phantom.
It's exactly. It's done. It knows what the story is, and it's true to how the story should end. It doesn't try and indulge.
Phantom left away for a sequel.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. Well, Spring Awakening, it kind of. I think that final song about Purple Summer, which I still don't know what a Purple Summer is. I'll look at the lyrics again and try and figure it out. But I think it kind of indulges.
I still think it's Prince related.
Well, I think it just indulges the audience a bit, and I think actually we're a smart audience, because it's quite a complex play that this musical's based on. So you don't have to indulge us for that last song. Yeah, but all in all, I'd say it's worth seeing. It's really worth seeing, especially if you're looking for a production of
Christ music.
No, but that's why. Especially if you're looking for a production of artistic excellence, where the most expensive seats are £27.50, and you're seeing the quality of show is the same that you'd see in the West End.
Wasn't it a £10 free for all though?
No, I saw that when I saw it. It was the last day of the £10 tickets,
Okay.
and so as of Monday, they all went into differing prices. I think maybe the previews were over or something. But yeah, normally, and that's why I love the Lyric as well. The Lyric, a lot of their shows, they try and get a lot of sponsorship so that they can keep their ticket prices low, and they put a lot of shows on where it's £9, and that's for every seat in the house. So you spend £9, and if you get there early enough, you get the front row of the stalls.
It's the story gripping.
It is. You know what? It's a very good story, which is why in the second act, the songs I didn't think sort of
away.
Yeah, well, I'm not just, but I think that's why they started to sound samey, because they tried to take over the story, whereas actually it's a very gripping and difficult exploration. You know, it's Spring Awakening. It's about these teens in a repressed society discovering their sexual nature and how it's meant to be. The other, yes, there is also in my head a
High School Musical.
Yeah, but not as glossy. But there is one bit in the second act which I don't want to ruin, but it's a moment between two of the students that is very comedic. And for those of you who see it, again, do email me or we'll talk about it again if we get enough demand. I don't think it should have been comedic. I think they glossed over that moment, and when they did that, I lost a bit of interest in the story, because I thought you could have been grittier. The first act, you were preparing me for something gritty, and I understand that it's getting darker in the second act, so you think I've got to give you levity, but I think the levity came at the wrong point with these two characters.
Turn the lights up a bit more.
Yeah. Well, so if you do see the show, you might disagree with me, and
if you have seen the show.
If you yes, exactly. If you haven't seen the show, you'll know which two characters I'm talking about, the two schoolboys.
I wonder what differences there are between Broadway and the West End.
I think so. I think there must have been some adaptation. I think there must have been, because they can't just give the same show when they know they've got a different audience.
Because this isn't someone doing the
Broadway.
Broadway. This is also the Broadway production.
Yes, but you're talking about actors who are English.
Mm-hmm.
On the whole, I think, or they're from the UK. Yeah, so they've got to get their tongue around it. I also saw earlier this year at the National August Osage County, which is Steppenwolf, so a famous Chicago-based American theatre company, come over and do an American show, very American. It was the heartland of America, and it was brilliant. That's actually the second show I've seen this year which got a standing ovation, and deservedly so. One of the best plays I've seen at the National. That show wasn't too American, even though it was about America, but I guess because the company's American, we, going in there, accepted that. Whereas this one, they've got an English audience, and I'm sure international audience as well for Spring Awakening, and an English cast, so they must have adjusted it in some way to go, well, we can't just carbon copy it, because that it's a different audience.
And also they've probably thought of ways to improve the songs,
improve
the book and lyrics.
Or just even not improve, but kind of go, well, let's try this out, see how it goes, But the onstage band and I'm not sure if conductor's the right word for it, but they were all brilliant, actually. Truth be told, and the fact that you can see them the whole way through it, they're great.
Again, saying your theory.
It's a show.
This is a show.
It's a show. It's a show. And since you mentioned the school thing, I can see why they've made a lot of design choices now, but it wasn't obvious to me when I saw it. Yeah,
I changed your opinion on it.
Yeah, no, it actually that does make quite a bit of sense. Like I say, it's well worth seeing, especially if you were in the mood for something a bit different, but still with the same quality of spending a lot of money in the West End.
And one last question to close this discussion.
Go for it.
How does it compare to our old favourite Rent?
Oh, I'm very sorry if you are fans of Rent. It knocks Rent out of the ballpark easily.
I'm just sorry if you're a fan of Rent in general.
Yeah, I apologise. Poor people. But no, it knocks Rent out of the ballpark, because I was concerned. Before going in there, I was thinking, oh man, what if it's just like a new Rent? Because it's sort of American rock amidst a difficult time.
Teenagers.
And with teenagers. And actually, in the second act, I started to see it. But no, I think it's well worth seeing. It's well worth seeing. I was glad I got to see it, especially for £10.
Yeah, exactly. Always good, especially in these dark times.
Especially, there's no recession in them.
Do you want to see any other musicals appearing in the West End?
No, none whatsoever. In fact, This is my last episode for Musical Talk. No, I do want to see quite a few musicals. In fact, I have still yet to see Hairspray live.
I saw that,
and exactly, a lot of people have, and I'm desperate to go see it.
I've never laughed so much in my life.
I really want to go see Hairspray. It's the one that's been open for a year and a half now.
It's not a belly laugh show in its entirety, but in the one song where it's Michael Ball doing a duet with his wife, his husband.
With his husband, yeah.
Michael Ball as a female character.
Yes. It's
you
hysterical.
Need to bring an oxygen mask because you're...
Well, I do. I mean, I have seen the film and I loved it, and I think the music's great in the film. And so to see,
it's so much better on stage.
Well, that's why. But I was thinking when I was watching that, to see those dancers live, they're so energetic that you can't help be carried away by them. So that's my objective: is to see Hairspray this year.
What really works well for me in the song is all the dance numbers are great and the upbeat stuff, but the gospel number, I Know Where I've Been, didn't do anything for me in the film.
Yes.
But when I saw it on stage for the first time, it was one of the most powerful things.
Very interesting. Because I agree, in the film, it didn't do that much for me either. But I
mean, that song, people started clapping before she finished her last...
Because it was so good,
it's that powerful.
Yeah.
And everything has been so upbeat. It's what the show needs to bring it
make
home.
It real. Yeah, bring it home. Yeah. So the same question to you, Nick. Are you looking forward to any shows that you haven't seen before this year?
Well, next week we're going to be talking about 2009 and 2008, and Sister Act has a resounding... we think it's going to be the big show of the summer.
I think so too. I've got a couple of friends who auditioned for that as well, so I've got to say it's going to be a good show, if they get it.
And my mate did the music, so it's all
incestuous. It's horrible.
It's all very good.
Yeah, it's Sister Act. No, that's one to look out for. True.
Yeah, and the cast has been announced for that. Interesting. The Palladium is a not a difficult venue, but a one of an interesting choice, I think, because it's big.
It's very big.
Be interesting to see what it does there. I'm not hugely looking forward to Priscilla, which opens in March.
See, I am. Did you not like the film?
I've never seen the film.
I think the film.
Would I enjoy it?
I think we
should go.
I think watch the film first. I think because it's a great film in its tongue-in-cheek way.
Okay.
And it's very clever. It's a very clever film, and it's quite touching. So
they say this will be the most spectacular musical ever as regards
silly
costumes.
Almost like saying it's going to be the most fabulous movie ever. Yeah, musical ever. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Children of all ages.
Mostly girls, probably. Thank you very much for listening.
Let's not make that judgment on our listeners.
Two very handsome male presenters. Two straight.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't seen it that way. Yes, thank you very much, ladies.
Yes,
thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, ta-ta.
This has been a production of Musical Talk, copyright 2009.
We're going off to a gala evening now.
We should make a move.
Champagne and canopies.
Yeah. Horse Dovers, yeah.
Here are some musical out-talks.
Welcome back.
Bibbidi bobbidi bibbidi bobbidi boo.
So what are we going to talk about?
Spring Awakening, Oliver.
Spring Awakening and Oliver. Are you gonna segue to the appropriate stuff?
Yeah.
There. I mean, because do you want me to ask? Hello, Jonathan.
Hello. Well, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. I'm blah 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 blah. Outtakes.
Because what I was going to say, are there any questions in particular you want me to ask you about Oliver? Because
no, we'll just talk about it.
Because it's literally it'll just be me going. So how was it? And then you talk about it.
And I'll do the same for you.
Oh God.
But I mean, keep it short because we have a whole interview.
Yeah, I'm thinking like 10 minutes, both of them, like 5 each.
We'll do a game.
Yeah.
So everything you can about Spring Awakening.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, how much time do we... Well, we've got plenty of time to do this anyway. Because I think if we make a move...
On anyone.
They'll kill us. Now, if we leave here, like, say, 7, or a little bit after 7, we'll get there for 8, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, have you actually... Do you know if the district line's running? This, they have weekend line closures. Do you know if the district line's affected by that one this week? I forgot to check. Completely forgot to check. Love will keep us together.
Outtakes over. Let's head to a Musical Talk extra for this week. In episode 90, you may remember Tim Sayward spoke to the Canadian composer of musicals Mel Atkey. He has a documentary about his life story. This is Finding My Voice.
In 2004, Olivier Award-winning actress Janie Dee presented a critically acclaimed, sellout one-woman show at London's Pizza on the Park.
It's really something, what I've waited for, I'm created for something. I'm supposed to be who I chose to be somehow. One should never be all alone.
As an opening number, she asked me to adapt my song Something in the Air.
What a happy glow. Thank you all for coming here. Should be quite a show. An electric atmosphere. And you're all my friends. What a great, exciting...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This program is the first in a series about the wonders of space. Your hosts will be the Atkey family.
Yes, Dad, I'm sure everyone will enjoy our adventure.
When I was a child, the principal of my elementary school brought me a microscope. Because I wrote science fiction stories, he thought I was interested in science. But the truth was, I didn't want to grow up to be Stephen Hawking. I wanted to be Captain Kirk.
We have to prepare for blast off.
Okay.
Countdown, start your countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, blast off.
While there were stars in my eyes, there were also tunes in my head. Fast forward to 30 years later. In a small theater in the heart of Manhattan, I made my New York theatrical debut as a composer and lyricist.
Absence of light brings a smile. And then it is really awesome to see how this pretty blossom can grow. Anywhere there is nothing taboo. You can make it if you will dare.
How did I get there? Ladner, British Columbia, where I grew up, was 3,000 miles away from Broadway, and certainly nothing in my upbringing encouraged me toward the Big Apple. But everything sang to me. As I walked home from school, or more likely, ran home, escaping some 10-year-old fascist with a pea-shooter, my mind built to a crescendo of the Hallelujah chorus, even if I was unable to make the world outside hear it. The first inkling that I might have musical ability came when a friend of my grandmother's helped me to write out a song that was then presented to universal acclaim in front of my grade 7 class.
Julie left my heart and body off to find somebody to love and
Things remained quiet on the musical front, while I concentrated on my political struggle with the school principal, who had somewhat ludicrously claimed that human beings were at the top of the animal kingdom. This would come back to haunt me in future years when I would attempt to mount my first theatrical opus on school grounds. In high school, I gravitated toward the school drama department, with aspirations of being an actor. Blessed with a physique that resembled an arthritic coat rack and the breaking voice of a tone-deaf hyena, I was uniquely unsuited to principal roles in the school musicals. In Kiss Me, Kate, I played the stage doorkeeper with one line.
Miss Vanessa, your cab is waiting.
I turned to the music program and began to concoct a rock opera with the cheerful title, David, a Young Boy's Shattered Dreams. Only the score was still in my head. I was approached by some of the senior music students who had heard about my idea. They seemed interested, and I hoped that they would help me. But in fact, they were just fascinated by the concept of a rock opera with no music. That did it. I was going to crack this problem, so I signed up for a class in music theory, in spite of the fact that I could not play any instrument proficiently. This was a highly disciplined environment. The other students were serious, accomplished musicians, and I aspired to their level of creativity. Alas, my hidden talents would remain hidden for a few years yet. But I discovered a fellow spirit, a classmate named Mark Telford. He and I stayed after school talking grandiose schemes. A musical. Of Macbeth.
A group of friends of mine and I have formed a comedy group.
A comedy group?
Yeah, for satire.
I see.
And we call it the National Film Board of Canada.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And
sounds like you got a good start already.
Yeah. We've produced one radio play called Macbeth.
With soft-shoe dancing witches and a porter in blackface. This was a show that would make Max Bialystock break out in goose pimples.
And we're going to try to work on staging it this Christmas.
Wow. Did you have pretty good success with it? Was it pretty well accepted when you put it on the air?
It isn't on the air yet.
Oh, I see. You're just going to do it.
The station's lost the tape.
They did? Oh, that's terrible. You only had one tape?
I made the mistake of not sending it registered mail.
Yes.
And I know it was received, but I don't know who received it.
Oh, my.
I sent it to the program director, and I found out they don't have one.
So we set to work. But then we hit an obstacle, and I suddenly wished that I had never persuaded the school board to scuttle the principal's plan to rename our school after the neighboring Indian tribe who used to rape and pillage our own Indians.
Mel Atkey, what are you doing?
He banned all of our activities, and we were forced underground. Rehearsals began under the same tight discipline that I had learned in musicianship class.
Every night, every day, Try doesn't have a head. I chopped it off. I'll be holding it.
Somehow, we pulled it off.
On Vancouver Cooperative Radio, it's 7:30. We're going into now the Drama Festival. Tonight, a special production of Macbeth. Macbeth is the story of one man's quest for power and the manner in which he is encouraged by his steadfast and unrelenting wife. Macbeth greets three weird sisters, and following a brief love affair between one of the sisters and Banquet, Macbeth's partner, Macbeth is told that he will soon become king. He sends word home to Lady Macbeth to inform her of the good news. She promptly writes back to him, asking what time he would be home for dinner and whether or not to put on the tea.
Oh, hello, dear. Have a good day at work?
Who the hell are you putting on? Get a bloody awful day. I just about got skinned alive at our battlefields. And just as I'm recovering, I meet three of the fiercest looking ball players I ever met.
To us, it sounded like... But the audience heard... I got the last laugh many years later when I discovered a book called Everything Baseball. In it, there's a list of song titles found in the Library of Congress. Among them was the baseball song, sung by the three witches to Macbeth and Banquo. Don't ask why there was a baseball scene in the opening of Macbeth, and don't ask how it found its way into a book published by Prentice Hall. Just accept it.
Yay, king!
After I graduated from high school, I tried to persuade Mark to continue to write with me, but he wasn't interested. I was left to spin my wheels. There was a bug inside me that didn't know how to get out. It had never really occurred to me at this point that I might be able to write music. While there were tunes in my head, I thought they were destined to stay there, so I turned to producing. A mutual friend introduced me to a Swiss-born airline upholsterer named Willie German, known locally as the patron saint of jazz musicians. We put together a concert featuring pianist Mike Taylor and legendary bass player Wyatt Ruther. This was supposed to be a fundraiser for youth theater. In fact, it raised $700 to the ground. The experience was worth it, though, and years later would inspire my musical Poor Little Rich Girl Sings the Blues.
I'm sure to miss your funny faces, but I won't cry if I do, 'cause there's no use getting sentimental over you.
Then I put together a telethon for a local charity, with Vancouver folk star Tom Northcott as the headline act.
90 degrees in the trees where it's shady, 110 in the hot sun. Heat from the street burns the feet of the ladies, see how they run.
I had begun what I realize now was the study of my craft. I got a job with a local radio station as a theater critic and began to interview some of those who'd influenced me, including Godspell composer Stephen Schwartz.
There's a kind of group energy generated by actors when they're on the stage all the time. In working, though, we weren't able to do this for some technical reasons in the New York production. I always like to have the entire cast on the stage the entire time, watching the other monologues if they're not directly involved themselves.
Actor Reed Shelton played Daddy Warbucks in the original Broadway production of Annie.
We opened in Washington, D.C., and the scenery was not painted. Now, had we flopped, they would have saved $150,000. Now, what Roger Stevens had to see is if the show was really going to make it. He came back at intermission, our opening night in Washington, said, paint the scenery.
Vancouver singer and songwriter Anne Mortefi.
How do you, when you're writing, sense the difference between where something should be stated with words and where it should be stated with music?
Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, you're asking the great metaphysical question. I don't write these things. I merely am here. And it's a sense, it's an instinct. It's, you just find out what it wants to be. It sounds so nebulous, but it's almost like this little Japanese thing that I once heard that said that there was this great master who created perfect elephants. They were the essence of elephants. And he had an apprentice who apprenticed with him for 10 years. And one day he finally said, Master, I cannot comprehend how you get the elephants to be so perfect. How do you do it? Tell me your secret. And he said, well, it's simple. I take a block of stone and I carve away everything that is not elephant.
So that's what I did. I set about carving away everything that was not elephant. Although I was not actually a student there, I joined the University of British Columbia's Musical Theatre Society, a group whose alumni had included actress Margot Kidder, who had made her acting debut on their stage a couple of decades earlier.
I was a child, she was a child, in this kingdom by the sea, and we loved with a love that was more than a love. I and my Annabelle Lee.
Mussock's mainstay was flaming-haired choreographer Grace MacDonald, who had taught some of Broadway's best dancers.
There's been some major stars in Canadian theatre that have made their beginnings with Mussock. Who were some of them?
Well, I think that Miller Andrews is well known in opera circles in Covent Garden and Sadler Wells, and Kelvin Service, who is still probably doing quite a lot of the singing down south. But then of the part, maybe the contemporary area, it's probably Brent Carver, New Ruth Nichols, you can go on and on and on, and practically everybody in town that's to do with theater started at least on the stage here.
In their production of Anything Goes, I played...
The name is Henry T. Dobson, D.C. A.C. LLG, moderator of the Chinese Anglican Church, President Emeritus of the Foreign Missionary Societies of the World, Honorary Chaplain of the Army of the Chinese Republic, author, lecturer, President of the Westminster Conference.
But this part required me to move. Grace had a talent for taking somebody like me with 2 left feet and making him look presentable, if not exactly Fred Astaire. Through Mussock, I was introduced to the world of dancers and musical theater performers.
I am 17 years old.
Oh, I have one of those good old mothers who put me through
I started dancing when I was
and then after that, I liked it, so I joined.
Actually 13,
I
because I just love people, see people
So I
dance.
just finished doing theater.
I started my training with
I'm going to be in the
Valerie Easton's Captain Dance. From her, I went to Maureen Allen.
I felt the energy, and it added syncopation to the pulse that was already beating inside me. Then an idea began to percolate. As a child, I was given a toy tiger. My father made up bedtime stories about this tiger and named him Frady Cat.
Taxi! Jungle!
With help from a friend who had traveled extensively throughout India, I developed a story about a group of tigers who had organized an army to defend themselves against the shikara, or tiger hunters. The script generated a lot of excitement, and the same New York agency who represented Stephen Sondheim were interested in taking me on. But still, there was no music. At least not on paper. It was still locked in my head. The frustration was palpable. Then one afternoon I went over to a friend's house. He was listening to Stravinsky's Rite of Spring on his stereo and following the score. While I knew where all the notes were on the staff, I had never been able to count time properly, to understand note values and syncopation. Rite of Spring's time signatures were so complex that the choreographer Nijinsky was reduced to counting the time out loud from the wings to his Ballet Russe corps. Yet as I followed through the score, something crystallized. That night, as I lay in bed about to go to sleep, I mentally heard one of my tunes and could visualize the score in front of me. I wrote down what I saw. A few weeks later, we went into a recording studio, and within a couple of months, that same song was played nationally on CBC Radio.
At CI Radio. Some people can just struggle for years and years to make their mark in the entertainment world, but some have it. And there's a young fellow by the name of Mel Atkey who has it. Atkey has been writing a musical with a character nicknamed Frady Cat in the main role. And I have a song I'd like to feature from that musical right now. It's sung by Janice actually, Jode.
Mel, this is Ralph Lucas, CFQR Radio Montreal. I just wanted to say we have indeed added to our playlist Far Away.
I just want to call and tell you that we are doing your song Tigress here in Chicago at WTN.
I'll try a new song here by a local girl, actually a girl who grew up in Kelowna, and now recording, making her professional debut. Hometown girl named Janice Jode here.
The dam had broken. The theatrical potential of this highly visual piece was obvious.
Madelon, what's the matter with you? Debbie, take my hand. Madelon, get out of the way!
A number of directors became interested in staging Shikara, and Stephen Schwartz told me that I showed enormous promise as a theater composer, adding, "Lucky you, such talent is rarer than you know." But then a new musical opened in London called Cats. Suddenly the idea of feline characters dancing on stage did not seem so original. But still, I had arrived, so I thought, and set out to conquer the big bad world of musical theater. I set out for Toronto, Canada's cultural capital, and the world's third largest English-speaking theatre centre, behind London and New York. Until the early 1980s, Toronto had a strong cabaret scene. A topical musical revue called Toronto, Toronto had been pulling in dinner theatre audiences for a couple of years, but I arrived just as the dinner theatres were closing. There was a branch of the famous Lehman Engel musical theatre workshop there, but Lehman had died just a few months earlier, and the workshop struggled on without him. Although I was a little fish in a big pond, I expected to rise quickly to the top. Of course, when a fish does that, it's not a good omen. Still, there were hopeful signs on the horizon. I was commissioned by CBC Radio to write 4 songs as a pilot for a proposed musical set in a recording studio, called Closed Session. However, in the workshops, my work was not embraced as enthusiastically as I had imagined it would be. I had many lessons to learn. For one thing, rhymes had to be perfect. No more rhyming find with mine. As an act of rebellion, the next song I wrote contained almost no rhymes.
I'll be going where the mood will take me, and I'm hoping maybe you will come along and you will be with me on my grand adventure, and we'll rediscover forgotten treasures. We'll open vistas in our tired minds, and we will pay the price to find our freedom with our lives.
While I was strong on romantic ballads, I had not mastered the sophisticated comedy number, but I was determined that I would.
If Romeo spying his Juliet's light should never have known what to say, she'd go to her bedroom and call it a night, and there'd be the end of the play. If Cyrano writing his letters so fine for Christian to give to Roxanne had never been able to think of a line, she'd never have followed their plan.
Then a friend introduced me to Kate, a one-time actress who had become a talent agent.
I was wanting to write a small show, but I felt that it had to be something that wasn't a big show scaled down, but something that demanded to be small. The best way to do it was to write something that dwelt on one character exposing himself, and that somehow he had to be under the gun to do it. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, just in one flash, it came an audition for Heaven, and it will be called the grand finale.
For the first time, my passion for musicals and my fondness for science fiction coincided when James Doohan arrived, handing out beam-me-up Scotty fridge magnets and regaling us with Celtic folk songs and stories of life aboard the Starship Enterprise.
The first Star Trek movie, which cost $42 million, when we're getting to V'ger, Ilya, was by that time a robot. The scene that I wanted them to keep in was her walking down and coming up to me at one of my consoles, and she stops and she says, "It is illogical that this carbon-based unit," meaning me, "should be in charge of warp engines." And before Decker has a chance to answer her, I cut in and I lean across the console to her and I say, "Lassie, if I were being logical right now, I'd be showing you the inside of our thrash metal compactor."
Mel Atkey, playwright, you're still in the pre-production process of Grand Finale. How did you come to recruit Jimmy Doohan for the lead role?
Well, it was interesting. I had read an article in a magazine a couple of years ago where Jimmy had tried to get the rights to Billy Bishop Goes to War in the U.S., and he wasn't able to get them, but my sister said to me, well, obviously he's looking for this sort of a one-man tour de force type of show, so why not send him the grand finale, which we did last October. We didn't hear from him for about 6 months until February. He called one night and was coming into Toronto in 2 days, and we went to the Prince Hotel for sushi, which I'd never had before, and I turned to Kate and asked her if it had alcohol in it. And that's basically where we started. Jimmy came back into town again last month, and we did a read-through of the show along with Richard Izonian, who, with all the pieces coming together, will likely be either the producer or director.
Name? Farrow. Vincent Alexander Farrow. Age? 55 to 75, although I'm usually costed around 60. I meant your age? My age, I'm 62.
Because we are dealing with a theater that is not a theater, really, and an audition that is not an audition, really, as the show goes on, we have to be in a place that can really not exactly be a stage. There has to be, to use a much abused word, there has to be some magic. We have to, through the use of paint and scrims and lights and black magic, in the sense of things that we hide behind black velvet. And black velvet can move very carefully, and you don't suddenly realize it's moved and there's something else there. We have to be able to give a whole taste and feeling of a man's life on stage. And at no point should we ever know that we've moved. That's what I mean with sleight of hand. I don't want the audience to ever say, "Look at that magical transformation." But I'd like them to be able to suddenly say, "I think we are in a dressing room. I think we are outside this theater. I think we are in a park where this man had brief fling 30 years ago. I think we are in a seedy apartment where he's about to order in Chinese food. But it's how we do it is the key to this. The play changes subtly as well. It's not one of these blackout sketch things where wham, bam, now we're here, wham, bam, now we're there. The present and the past and the future dovetail. Sometimes they exist on one level for a couple of minutes until the threads separate and you find out exactly where you are. It's up to us to make sure the audience never gets confused, and it's also up to us to keep that sense of magic, that we can start at point one and return back to point one, but along the way we have to go through a lot of other points without drawing attention to how we're doing them.
Come on now, Mr. Farrow, don't you think you're a little, advanced to play the Prince of Denmark? Besides, we already have someone in mind for the part.
Who's that?
An actor with a vast reputation.
Who is he?
Edmund Keane.
Very funny.
It's not supposed to be.
How on earth?
They came down to a choice between Keane, Sir Ralph Richardson, and John Barrymore, but Keane read rather well, so I tend to favor him. I don't know, what do you think?
Well, I've never seen him act.
Oh, it's a shame. He played Oedipus for us last season. Caused quite a sensation.
I bet he would.
You know, in fact, I think we'll have quite a stellar cast. It looks like we'll have James Mason, Richard Burton, and Charles Laughton in the supporting roles.
Look, you can have whomever you dream up, but I'm leaving.
Oh, no, wait a minute. You haven't heard the best part yet. Your old friend, Tyrone Guthrie, is going to lend us a hand.
I think you mean the late Tyrone Guthrie.
Oh, you're not going to get hung up on that, are you?
In Grand Finale, you go completely in the opposite direction from somebody who has made it to somebody who is trying to make it. An actor with a modest reputation, but who is not modest. What is this man's problem?
Well, it's always a question of ego, in a way. Because to me, the Grand Finale is such a terrific play. It's about an actor who is about my age, and he's auditioning for heaven. He doesn't know it at first, but he finds out that this is the problem, and he has a lot of problem with the director, who's the guy in charge of either getting you in or getting you out. You know, it could be God himself, it could be St. Peter, it could be Mother Ann. You know, who knows? The whole thing is that it's a character that I would love to create, and to me, I've done over 130 stage plays anyway, but I haven't done any for the past 10 years. And really, I've been looking for a play, and this is it.
James Doohan came to Toronto 4 times at his own expense for a series of intense workshops.
You'd be surprised. Let's hope they're hanging on every word, but they don't always. You know? And it has to be laid out. In other words, you may have been great with the critics that came to see the plays, but
what if you said something like, perhaps we take a look at what the real critics said? That
might
would give
work.
the emphasis on.
That might work.
Although there had been significant press interest, we didn't actually have a producer on board, and there was no financial backing. Kate and I were frantically struggling to bring it together.
You started out with a script in hand, Mel. What kind of reaction did you get from the theater community in Canada about this play, Grand Finale?
Well, when I first discussed the idea with people, it was almost always unanimously positive. I mean, everybody, you just say an audition for heaven, and they burst out laughing. When it comes down to trying to nail them down, it's very difficult. I'll tell you my feelings as far as the 2 children are concerned. I originally wasn't going to bring them in, but I like having them there. And the thing is that it is set up as being a one-man show, and then it's blown. And that could have that should be treated with an element of surprise.
Oh, certainly. I think it's a matter of fact that
Because the audience has to expect a one-man show.
yeah, and they can then be surprised, and oh, here we go into something new. And
Now, if we want, we can make, concentrate on making the first half of it more of a tour de force and setting up more like it's a one-man show. And maybe having a little bit of discomfort on the actor's part with the fact that he's sharing a stage with somebody else. Now, Norman came up with another idea that he thought of, was having, if the voice of the director is going through a PA system, is having it so that the source of the sound keeps bouncing around the room.
It can be all over the place.
Yeah.
You can have systems, that could be fantastic.
Yeah, and he thinks that it would be good, first of all, part of the body language of the actor can be squinting, looking out into the house, trying to figure out where the director is, and it can be a running gag through the show.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you have a line, and suddenly, within a second, the director's at the other end of the room.
Yes, yes.
And it enforces more the idea of an omnipresent director.
Yes, somebody who can be anywhere at any time.
Yeah, I like that idea. At the last reading, I gave Jimmy what I thought was the tape of the first reading with Richard Azinian.
Yeah.
He got it home to play it back, and it turns out it wasn't. It was the tape my sister was using to try to teach the cockatiel to talk.
Yeah. And I turn it on, and it says, "Hello, hello."
Unfortunately, we never did find a producer to take the show on, and the theater where we planned to stage it closed its doors. In another setback, due to a change in management, CBC Radio decided not to proceed with closed session. But important lessons had been learned. My next songs revealed a more conversational approach to lyric writing.
And I like your hair. Someone give you all those clothes. Those are quite a pair. Like the ones my mother sews. They're not really bad. They're just sort of quaint and bizarre. Would you like a bite? Grab a pizza after school. No, I'm turning right. Hang a left before the pool. Well, that's really great. Get a chance to know who you are.
Although the theater scene in Toronto was growing rapidly, there were no producers prepared to take on new musicals by new writers, and so, in 1991, I headed for London.
In the right kind of place, with the right kind of wife, he might have had a chance at the right kind of life, with a woman who was shy and free of any whim, who never gives a care for anyone but him. You can't know the kind of wife he needs till you know the kind of life he leads. But life doesn't offer second chances, standing so still while the clock advances. By the time you know, then it's too late to go.
It's ironic that a move to England would bring me closer to New York. One Sunday afternoon, I went to the Theatre Museum, hoping to see Green Willow, one of a series of lost musicals presented in a concert reading. Unfortunately, they were down to their last ticket, and an elderly American man also wanted to see it. As it turned out, we both got in, and he sat next to me. Afterward, he invited me to join him for dinner. Bob Sickinger had been a director of some note in Chicago in the 1960s, running the Hull House Theatre. Playwright David Mamet, who'd worked for him as a teenager, claimed in an Esquire article that Bob Sickinger was one of the greatest directors he'd ever known. Among his other protégés were Jim Jacobs and Warren Casey, the creators of Grease. That day, the wheels were set in motion for a long-distance collaboration. Bob would send scripts and tapes from New York, while I sent scores and lyrics from London.
I think on Marie's Lament, Second Chance, I think that should go much slower than what we have there, And let's keep together as a team. And I'm just really knocked out with what you've done. I'm real happy, and I hope that you'll be that happy with it too.
Our first project together, a musical based on the Willa Cather novel O Pioneers, opened at Producers Club 2 in Manhattan in April 2001.
I'll never fear the rain again, nor run away from pain again. The coldness of the tomb, like the darkness of the womb, and be free. So maybe I can live again by learning to forgive again and reignite my soul and make my spirit whole. I'll never be afraid, for the debt has been repaid, and the seeds of life will rise again and open up their eyes again. I'll never fear the dawn again, or the thought of moving on again, or the secrets of the tomb, of that old and empty room. And may they live in peace, and may he live in peace, and may I live in peace again.
Anthony Holds.
In a studio in New York, director Robert Sickinger is auditioning actors and singers for a new musical version of the Frances Hodgson Burnett novel, A Little Princess.
If you were to see a clown in his floppy Pagliaccio shoes take a tumble falling down in his bold endeavor to amuse, you'd worry he might break or bruise. But something in your ardent peak appeals to my enlightened streak. For no one of a topsy-turvy air is genuine and true, and no one in this fizzy-headed world is quite as grave as you. But still your face is long, and now I need you to be strong. Keep up your chin, you're marching bravely now, and no farewell is just what comes before hello. You mustn't cry, you're Daddy's soldier girl, and you'll be safely in my arms before you know. For wherever chance may find us, there's another power that binds us, and whatever force is tearing me away, though its danger may be looming and its fire all consuming, it's not as strong as what makes me long to stay. Show me your face.
For this show, Bob is adapting the script in New York, while I write the music and lyrics in London. We communicate by fax, email, tape, and occasionally in person, in either city.
Emily, remember she recorded this, in a higher key. We brought it down to a B flat, but this is not the key that she will sing the next time when she comes back. But it'll give you an idea, and the ideas you have about any of these songs, let me know too.
What do you have to say, Emily? What do you have to say? Surely you love your day and
In our version, the story is set in the American Civil War. Colonel Crew has enlisted in the Union Army and left his beloved daughter Sarah in the care of Miss Minchin and her school for young girls.
A little princess, a future queen, a little pipsqueak of the likes I've never seen, a little dreamer, Miss Sarah Crew. She'd best learn to sever what will never come true. For in the real world, there's a rule that's unspoken, that dreams are for hearts that beg to be broken. So open your eyes and let yourself see your way through this dark and pitiful world like me. But the world is made for little princesses living in their royal realm, waving down on all the downtrodden whom they quickly overwhelm. They were born to take the helm, but we who have to make a living through the mire of grit and grime know a world that's bleak and ungiving, where your heart's not worth a dime.
Sarah is told that her father has been killed in battle.
Maybe I was never a princess. Suddenly it all turns pale. Suddenly it seems I'm waking from a fairy tale. Papa, where are you? Papa, can you see? Now that I'm so serious, why won't you laugh at me?
The War Department has sent this letter found on the battlefield. I'm so sorry, Sarah.
I'll be all right, Miss Marriott. My papa is dead, Emily. Dead in battle, hundreds of miles away.
If he were here to talk to you, what do you think he'd say? Raise your head and don't lose face. Screw your courage to the sticking place. You're sure to find your way. Carry on, and you'll find being princess is a state of mind. And soon you will see you'll be turned into a royal we. A princess holds herself with grace and is never scared of a losing face. The only thing to do is carry on. You and me, the bestest friend you'll ever see. And then, by and by, we'll stay together, you and I. With all the blessings you have known, you'll never find yourself alone. When all the seeds are sown, you carry on. When it looks as though your day is done, another one has just begun. Until the battle's won, you carry on.
My two-hander musical Perfect Timing was a finalist in the 1996 Musical of the Year competition in Aarhus, Denmark, and I became a writer associate of Mercury Musical Developments.
Does it matter anymore if I'm feeling anything? Upright and perfect and easy to see. What used to be refused to be for me. Hopelessly hopeful and knowingly blind. A naked God that's very hard to find. Somebody promised a miracle.
Somebody promised to tell me who to be. So complimentary, discreetly vivacious, a fish out of water.
My first book, When We Both Got to Heaven, was published by Natural Heritage Books in 2002. This autumn, the same company will publish my next book, Broadway North, The Dream of a Canadian Musical Theatre.
Now as I stand with the audience facing me, I feel the power of the stage, and I feel the thrill